Welcome to Interviews with Innocence, a podcast about spirituality, consciousness, and exploring the wisdom our children bring into this world. I believe that our very young children are our greatest teachers. After all, they're the masters of living in the present moment, bubbling in unconditional love, enjoying the messiness of life, and curious about the universe in all its dimensions. The pure essence that young children exhibit lives within all of us. My hope is that these interviews will help us discover, embrace, and connect with the sacred core of childhood that resides within each of our hearts. I am your host, Marla Hughes. Today, I am thrilled to have Dr. Sonia Rinaldi on the show. Sonia is co-founder and research director of ITC, Institute of Advanced Research on Instrumental Communication. Sonia is just an amazing researcher, and I've met her, and she's become a good friend of mine, and I've seen her work, and wow, I just have to say, keep an open mind and just listen. And if you know of anyone that you think might benefit from this information, please send it along, because she's definitely the real deal. And her latest research, news, and photographs of loved ones in the afterlife are also available on her website. And you will want to go to YouTube if you find this audio interesting, because she does show a slideshow. And it's just great, amazing. So her aim is to give comfort and faith to all, to help prove the existence of the afterlife and that communication with the spirit world is possible. Enjoy. Today, I am just over the top thrilled to have Sonia Rinaldi on the show. Sonia is co-founder and research director of ITC, Institute of Advanced Research on Instrumental Communication. Sonia is the author of 17 books and has been participating in research for over 30 years, getting the best results in the world, both in trans images and voices of the deceased. She is the subject of the upcoming documentary Rinaldi, Instrumental Transcommunication to the Other Side. And Sonia, I know you have, you put out an e-magazine, which is, I'm so honored to get regularly. And now you've brought over 5,000 pages of audios, images, videos. Wow. So I commend. Do I hear your puppy in the back, or is that my dog?
No, it's not around here.
Okay, good. Well, it's usually my dog, so no problem. So anyway, welcome to the program. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you, Marla, for the opportunity of talking to you, to see you again.
Yes.
And also to your audience. I thank you.
Yes. And today we're going to be talking about something that I've never had anyone on the show to talk about, mainly because Sonia is really the only one that is doing this in the world as in much depth and from a very academic and scientific standpoint. And I love when I read that you said about your work. Our aim is to give comfort and faith to all, to help prove the existence of the afterlife and that communication with the spirit world is possible. So let's talk about instrumental transcommunication. How did you get involved in this work of documenting the discovery of communication between the living and those loved ones who have passed?
Well, Marla, in truth, I think it is a bit a long story, but I think that the reason why I became interested in this area was because I was raised in nuns school, a Catholic school.
Yes.
And when I was about 15, 16 years old, I was thinking that all those things that I had learned, sincerely, it didn't make too much sense for me. And I was thinking of one thing. I was thinking, whenever we make a choice for a religion or a philosophy or anything like that, that defines or guide your life, right? And I was thinking, imagine how sad it is if you make an option for trusting in such or in this or in that religion, and all of a sudden you discover that, oh, that was foolishness, that was not concrete, that was not real. And then you say, oh my God, I lost 30 years of my life, 50 years of my life believing in something that now it is said that it is not right. Right. So I was thinking that I would like to follow a way that I could feel some security, that I could be certain that that was not a waste of time. And so when I was, I think some 21, 22 years old, I discovered one institute here in Brazil called the Brazilian Institute for Psychobiophysics research. And then I started attending there. And by that time they were researching reincarnation cases and poltergeist cases that were happening around. And so I started learning to document all these things and how to proceed in investigation style. And then I said, well, this is what I want, because I'm dealing with something that I can grasp. It is not something that I have to believe. And by the way, the word to believe is something that left me very uncomfortable, because I think that either you know or you don't. You don't have to believe. I don't like that. So then I was still attending that place when I heard that people in Europe was recording voices of the spirits, of the deceased ones. And then I said, well, now things are even better, because if this is real, oh, that is what I want, because this is something that, you know, I don't have to believe in that. I don't want to believe in anything. So I heard, but there were no instructions, nothing. Well, I just read some articles that they in Europe they were recording. So we had to reinvent the wheel, right? Because there was nothing as instruction. And so that's how I started. In truth, I think that it was because I am somewhat skeptical, because I'm very hard to believe in things, right? So I think that was the best way. And really, I think that today I was right, happily.
Yes, yes. I love that when you say, I don't want to believe, I want to know. That's a great way to, I think, enter a field like this, because you want to hear it for yourself. And I just want the listeners to know that Sonia and I have become good friends, and I have seen her work firsthand, and it is mind-blowing and amazing, and it's something hard to really kind of wrap your head around unless you're actually there and you see it in person. And in a few minutes she's actually going to show some pictures of her work, and wow, I mean, you're really changing the world. So how has the scientific community embraced your work?
Well, I think that is a very good question, because in truth, it doesn't happen.
Yes.
The point that, let me just turn on the computer, I'm sorry. Otherwise you will be, oh.
No problem.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, yeah, it's working now. In truth, the academic people, and I also had been there also when I took my my mastership and my doctorate. And the problem is that I think it is so funny that science and religion presently are things that cannot talk together. They cannot go along. Maybe it is because many centuries ago, I think that the religion was so the owner of science. I think that the scientists are so frustrated with that they don't want to talk about any topic that is related, let's say, to religion. I don't like to link instrumental transcommunication with religion. That is absolutely not a religion for me. But I think that scientists should be searching the truth, whatever it is or wherever it is. So we see investments in all areas. The most absurd it is, there is no problem because it's science. So you have the right of investigating, even if you were looking for life in Mars. That makes sense because that is science. But to look inside here with us, if life goes on after death, they are afraid because this is not science. And so happily, I see that in the United States specifically, there are lots of medical doctors mainly interested in consciousness studies. So happily, this is a step forward because that is close to what we do. Yes. Because I think that these people will finally come to the conclusion that they are even that they are still in doubt if the consciousness needed the brain or not to survive, and so they are still discussing this. But I think that in a certain moment, these will be proved that they are absolutely independent and that the consciousness can survive without the brain. So then I think finally we will reach a step, and then I'm sure that all academics of all areas will run behind us. Yeah. But for now, it is the opposite. I usually go behind them for trying to authenticate the phenomenon, but it is very complicated. Yeah. But we will reach what is possible.
Absolutely. Well, you know, you look at Dr. Mary Neal, orthopedic surgeon, who had the profound near-death experience. And she said she used to think that, you know, science and spirituality are separate, but now she knows that they need one another. And science teaches you how to do something, and spirituality teaches you why. And then you look at Dr. Eben Alexander and his experience, and just all of the, and I'm going to say physicians and academics, because it's interesting, I guess, that those are the people that have to put kind of a sealed stamp on it, right? But there are so many coming out that are realizing that there is a continuity of consciousn's after death. I just interviewed Dr. Lommel, Pim Van Lommel, cardiologist, yesterday, and it was interesting because, as you said earlier before I hit record, is that many scientists don't want to study this because then they lose their tenure or they don't get grant money, and they're afraid really of the career. And he said that all changes after they retire. You know, they start really looking into this. So I agree so much with you. And don't you agree this is just one more piece of the evidence that consciousness does continue? I mean, we have near-death experiences, shared death experiences, stories from hospice workers, and then your work is just one more piece of the puzzle. Do you agree with that?
In a certain way, yes. I mean, in a certain way, because I think that whenever instrumental transcommunication has the opportunity of enlarging the areas that we can reach and so on, I think this will be the piece. the important piece. Why?
Yes.
Because we deal with, let's say, methods. We deal with files, digital files that can be investigated. When you have, for instance, near-death experience or any communication through mediums, you will depend on the personal witness, on the personal view of that thing that she or he says that happened, but you cannot grasp it, you cannot investigate because it was gone already.
Right.
When you have, obviously, it is also the word of the medical doctor, and obviously this is what maintains the thing in the security, but still it is not something that can be replicated or that can be investigated deeply, because it is some subjective
Yes.
impression of something, right? So I think that instrumental transcommunication comes to supply these, because as either in voice or in image, we have everything recorded, and these can be investigated. These can be verified if it was paranormal or it was not, you know? So I think that as we go on working, and maybe we still have some a long road ahead of us, but I think that as we go on, I think that it will be shown that instrumental transcommunication can make the difference.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Well, with that, let's show some of your pictures. And before you do, I just want to, maybe for listeners that don't clearly understand what we're talking about right now, it is through vapor and light, and Sonia will walk you through some of the ways that she has experimented and now does this. Come images of those who have passed, and some of these images we don't even know who they are, and then parents will contact you, somehow see this picture and contact you and let them know that it is a loved one. And many times, let's say a teenager has passed, these pictures of them much younger will show up, and then the parents identify them. And so let's see some of these, just this amazing work that you're doing.
Okay, let's share my screen so that we can show.
I'm so excited when this actually works.
Yes, yeah, it is supposed to work. Oh my God. So here we are. So I will show you some trans images. That is how we call, and of different, using different resources for happening. For instance, and sometimes it is very funny because I use some things from my kitchen and it works. So you wouldn't believe what these plastic support was. It was something for putting cakes inside. So it's some from my kitchen. It's not absolutely scientific, but what matters is that all these the phenomena of instrumental transcommunication, I would say that it still depends in maybe 95% on the other side. So our cooperation is very small. So it doesn't matter too much if I use a very sophisticated research or a plastic something, you know. It will work because they are the ones that are working, right?
Right.
So this is Constantin Raulev. He is my main communicator in the other side. He was a pioneer of instrumental transcommunication. And when he was alive, he recorded, by that time, and there was no image yet, he recorded 70,000 audio samples, and he published in a book called The Breakthroughs by his time. So he made a wonderful work when he was here, and now he's in the other side, and I have the honor of being his partner in this side here.
Wow.
So this is one case of apparition. This is Melissa, and she's Patricia's daughter. I suppose that you know Patricia.
Yes.
And Melissa passed at the age of 18 of a heart problem. And Melissa appeared many times. And one of the times that she appeared is this one in the middle of the screen. And when she was younger. And later, Patricia sent me this photo of Melissa when she was a child. And we can see that it is just the same traces. And the question that I think that we have always to ask is how such images come to us.
Right.
Because it is something that implies in such a huge technology that we, our human science has no idea, you know, because they are not here. And all of a sudden, these images in our space-time. So it is a huge technology that I think that I hope that later on scientists try to discover all this, the physics that there is behind the communication process, right?
Right.
So this is Abby, and her apparition also as a younger. This is something very common, and my interpretation on why this can happen, why they appear younger or many times as a child, and that the family can identify and send pictures showing that indeed that was the loved one when he or she was a child. I think that the reason maybe it is because of precisely of this, because the family doesn't expect to see a photo that they don't have at home, and as a child even more. And so this is Abby and how she appeared.
Wow.
And this is a Brazilian friend of mine, Nícia. She is working in the translations of my magazines for Portuguese, because usually we work first in English and then Nícia makes the translations into Portuguese. And she lost this young girl, Beatriz, and we received again the image of Beatriz as a girl, and then Nícia sent me this photo at right, showing that really looks like Beatriz. And we can observe that, for instance, in the transimage, Beatriz shows other traces. For instance, observe that the photo, she's smiling largely, and in the transimage, her hair is different and the smile is different. So it is a photo that Nícia never saw in her life, but it still is Beatriz.
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah, we have a case that was very curious. This happened to my friend Rosanna, and she lost her mother. And again, her mother appeared as a young lady or even a teenager at right. So Rosanna was absolutely shocked because she have never seen her mother young like this. And in this case, nearly all the family, all Rosanna's family appeared over her mother. Here we have her mother again, the photo, and the other pictures of her transimages. You see that the head is in another position, the hair is different, the smile is different. So it has nothing to do with the photo that Rosanna has.
Right. And Sonia, if I can just interject for a second?
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit how, I mean, I've seen your work where the vapor, it happens really quickly and how you have to go through each second to be able to see these images.
Yeah, in truth, to work with the vapor is just one of the resources
Yes, yeah,
that I
and the
thought.
light.
All the time I'm changing, because I think that that is to make the research, because if you repeat the same thing all the time, you will not get new things, new advancements. So every time I'm changing. So indeed, I'm still using the vapor, because vapor is something that it seems to make something like a curtain that the other side can project something and send it to us over the vapor. So the vapor is in our space-time, but the images are not. So I think that they use the vapor as a support. So in this case, I was using also, in Rosanna's case, I was using the vapor, and but it is just one of the possibilities, and it works, and it can bring the whole family, as we can see.
Wow.
So obviously we don't know precisely how it works, but I have my, let's say, intuition, if that works for something, that the other side uses a process which is not a transmission, but it is something like a virtual reality in which they can work in a copy of us. And in this copy, these copies will reflect straight to our devices. And then I would say that they work in their space-time, and they created there, for instance, if let's suppose that we had some vapor here, I would say that they would use a precise copy of these, would change the vapor, and these would come straight to my computer, so that in my space, I just see vapor. I don't see any other thing.
Right.
But in the recording, in the file, it is changed. So that is why I think that it is not a transmission, but it is something that we will still develop on Earth. We don't have such technology yet, but I think that one day we'll get there. But I think that they work in the copy, and the copy can be added to inserted in our devices.
Right.
So this is still another case. And Rosanna had to look for such, when she saw this transimage, she thought, oh my, I think I know this lady. And then she looked and discovered that it was her grandmother that she doesn't see for many years.
Wow.
She died long ago. And also her brother also appeared. So I just got this case because it was somewhat recent. And so you can see that his brother also appeared. So again, it's the question, it is not only the contents, but also the technology evolved, right? And as you mentioned that sometimes there appear, and it is very frequent, unknown kids that we have no idea who they are. And then I publish in each magazine, in each report that I make of each recording, I add at the end usually the unknowns. And recently, I made a collection of only unknowns. So I made a publication of only unknowns with more than 100 unknowns. So I brought some that are transimages that happened during any recording and we couldn't identify. As for instance, this lady, right? Maybe someone in the audience may recognize and would be happy to know. We are very happy when we discover the parents, and the parents are even more happy.
Wow.
You have another a lady, and you perceive that she has clear eyes, dark hair. All these are on the vapor, right? So this, I think it is something absolutely amazing, because sometimes I use color lights, right? Just things, let me see if it is to show off. Something like this, you see, it is a red light.
Right.
Oh, so I use many colors. And the incredible is that the other side seems to be capable to separate the colors to create the image and give some volume. And one thing that calls my attention in spatial is the capacity of creating the hair. The hair sometimes is something that you have the impression that you can touch. So it is quite amazing.
Wow.
This is somewhat old, but I think it is a nice image as well. This is an old technology that was not vapor yet, was just a cloth, but also serves for them to use as a support of their creations. This also was just a cloth, and so they could, there was no deepness, and so it is somewhat old, but it is still our nouns. And this is, sometimes they can, they call the attention for the cloth they are wearing. So this boy is wearing something very specific. This may happen, help the family to identify.
Right.
And this is also a lady with short hair. Also, we couldn't identify. And this is us, just
Wow.
us.
Amazing.
So,
and I know,
also,
and
so,
wow, thank you so much for that. And I know you have to go through, so it changes, not, you just see vapor, so on the files, and you have to methodically go through every single, I've seen you do this every single second it must just take you a long time. This is very intensive work.
The worst is that it is not a second. Each second of a video has 29 frames. We have to see each frame, so that 1 minute has precisely 1,480 frames. Wow. So I usually record short videos of 3 minutes each, more or less, 3-4 minutes, and then I go through all these. Obviously, nowadays I can go quicker, and mainly I just pick the let's say what is really very clear, very impressive, but it is absolutely amazing that nearly in no frames there are things, small things here and there, but I simply ignore because it's not possible to save all that. Right. And with each recording, I usually produce one e-magazine, and each e-magazine has sometimes 80, 100 pages, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on how much I recorded. But I try to register everything that I do so that these can remain after us, because one day we will not be here anymore. Yeah. So I hope that the most that I can spread, I appreciate, because these will remain, not us, right? And these will guide, I think, the new generations for bettering the communication with the other side, right?
Absolutely.
So it is, but I love to do this.
I know you do.
Say, oh, it is so exhaustive. No, it is exhaustive, but I think that it is something that I get amazed myself. So I say, oh my, how can this be done? So I think that time passed by and I not even notice.
Right. You are so passionate about this work without any financial help other than your Patreons that help you, and we'll actually have a link about that information, but you do this out of just out of your heart. You know, something I find really comforting too, I've had sometimes it gets confusing because you hear mediums or whomever, you feel as if someone just, when they pass, they go from their physical body to just spirit. But especially Rosemary Altea, who's one of my, oh, she's just a sweetheart. She's a very well-known medium healer. And she's explained to me that after you pass, you still have your ethereal body, which is exactly what you're showing. It's not like you don't. She totally sees people. And I find that so comforting too, for some reason. Well, not for some reason. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, well, it is not so obvious to the majority.
Yes, yes.
But yes, I'm sure that it is precisely like that. The consciousness is one thing, but well, let's say that a copy of our body goes together with the consciousness.
Yeah.
So that in the sequence of one life, we still have the same appearance. Obviously, that many years later, possibly these will change. And whenever we develop our consciousness, I think that will come one day, maybe in some 1,000 years, that will not need not even a body anymore,
Right.
not even a solid body, and not even a copy of the body, but still our consciousness will be available outside.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think, yes, that's what we see. It is still what we have the impression is still solid, and maybe it is for the other side.
Yeah.
Because here in Brazil, we, thanks to a very respected medium that now passed, Chico Xavier, he wrote about 400 books about the life in the other side. So that let's say that Brazilians are more familiar with all these topics. So it is not so uncommon for us to imagine that, yes, life goes on in the other side. They work, they eat, they sleep. This may sound, oh my God, this sounds so complicated, but it seems that it is precisely like this.
Yeah.
Because they need energy to keep all the, let's say, the molecules together, and they have to feed as well. So obviously it is not a food like we prepare at home. It is not a pasta or a beef, but it is still something that they have to eat as energy to maintain all the spirit together. And this spends energy, right? So it makes sense that also they have to rest. So all these appear in many books here. So we are used to these already. So it is not so rare, but yes.
Right.
We go on with the appearance we had.
Yes, and the ancient cultures, I mean, they've always known this. And I think we've done a big disfavor in Western society, just having this materialistic view in science. But I really do believe this is changing. And you are absolutely the pioneer for all of this. So just to segue a little bit, and it's part of all of your work, but you have quite a passion, as I do, for children. And you've even written a couple of books for children. And I'm just, of course, I think in almost everyone's heart, there's love for a small child and that innocence and all of that. But how was it that you were inspired to write? Let's talk about the book for the young ones, Peppy's. Is it Peppy's Adventure or what? Pursuit.
Pursuit.
Yes, Peppy's Pursuit.
Pursuit. Yeah.
Yes. And we will put a link to all of this on the show notes. But how did that come about?
Yeah, in truth, I think that, well, there are many reasons why I like to write it to children. I wrote some books here in Brazil, paper books, but now I don't have time anymore. Yeah. So the last one that I worked was that one that you were mentioning, Pep's Pursuit. And that was more spiritual, really. The other ones were just stories. But I think that the main reason is, I think that the loss of a child, I think it is even worse than to lose a teenager or a mother or a husband or whatever. I think that the loss of a child, a small child, is such something so deep, because it is not only the absence of the child, but it is also the sensation. I think that the child needs more attention than the others. So is my child with cold? Is my child sleeping well? How is he or she going in the other side? So I think it is something even worse than the other losses, I think. And also maybe because in my last life, I also lost one baby, and it was a very tragic life. And I think that this calls my attention to the importance of helping mothers who lost anyone, not only child, but any loss in truth, because I think that that was something very deep in my life when I lived in Scotland. And I know that this loss was something that it was really the end of my life that time. So I would say that if I have the opportunity, as I do now, of helping these mothers, I think that it's a privilege for me to have this opportunity. And I think that it's not only good for these persons, but for me as well, because every time I have more certainty of all these, and the happiness of being able to rescue somebody, because, you know, when you lose someone very loved, mainly a mother who lost a boy or a girl or a teenager or whatever, I think that your life lose the main meaning, right? And then you have to reconstruct everything again.
Right, right.
But if you are sure that this is not a loss at all, but you will meet again your son and your daughter, it is a relief. Obviously, it doesn't substitute the child, it is obvious, but substitute in the meaning of the pain to be smaller. So I think that I feel really blessed and privileged to be able to do this. So it's not only that these persons are being helped, I'm also helped too. So
very well said. And your work also, you don't have you really are so busy, but you're also very interested in you've done some work with those who are still living on this earthly realm but are nonverbal.
yeah.
People with disabilities, maybe severe autism, those sorts of things. So wow, you're truly an angel to the world. Sonia, if people want, if they're curious or they want to be involved in, in your work, or see if a trans image can possibly come through, or a nonverbal, how do they, is there a possibility to contact you and get involved in your work?
Yes, of course. I think that the best way is the following. In the last 2 years, a friend of mine, Amy, that you met already, she had the idea of making a Patreon website for me, because up to there, and that was some 33, 34 years, I had no cooperation of anybody. Well, here in Brazil, first, it is not from our culture to support as Americans do. So I was very, let's say, I had to carry on my research anyway, and I always bought everything, or computer and whatever I needed, I put from my pocket, right? I'm retired, and so I have some income that I always maintained everything and published and everything. So I was, let's say, making my task as I could. And 2 years ago, Amy had the idea of making this website. And so, thank God, it was a blast for me, because for the first time in my life, I could see some money. And many persons give it $5. But it is wonderful, because for me, the important is that this person is around, and she or he will be informed of our work. So it's absolutely nothing important. It could be even less. But this also helps me. So we have this Patreon website, which is www.patreon.com. I don't know how to say bar.
Yeah.
Bar? No, I don't know.
Hyphen? And it will be on the show
No,
notes.
yeah, okay, please, because I don't know. And then
Yes.
Sonia Rinaldi. So if people would like to see, there are lots of publications in magazines and everything. They can talk to us as well. So it is the best way.
Yes, and people can also reach out to me too if they would like to reach
Yeah,
you.
sure.
But yeah, like you said, the Patreon, it's not really, I mean, it is the money because it certainly helps towards your research, but it's even more so that you're helping others, you know, and bringing this information to the world. So what's on the horizon for all of this? I know recently well, not that recently, but you started working a lot with light, which makes so much sense, you know, considering we're light beings.
Yes. Well, I think that, well, I came to a point that I think that the most important now would be for me to reach the authentication, the scientific authentication. That obviously doesn't depend on me, because that's not my area. But by the other hand, I think that everything has its correct time. And I'm sure that in this work specifically, or anything related to the other side, all this is under the control of higher beings that follow our progress on Earth, the development of our consciousness. So I'm sure that in the right moment, the academics or the scientists will appear, and then they will study and verify all this that happens here, and that will be important for me, because it will be an endorsement of what I do. But also, I am sure that this will bring a new door to all sciences. In truth, it is not one science specifically, because all sciences will change. Medicine, physics, everything. Whenever you have something in parallel that is can be perceived through devices, even that we are not able to see, I think that this will change the view of all the sciences. So I think that this day will come when it is the correct time, when the other side decides it is the moment.
Yeah.
So I think that will be what I would like most, to have my work studied, investigated. But I'm sure that this will happen in the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sonia, is there anything else you'd like to share that I haven't asked you?
Oh, no, I think that you covered with the wonderful questions, and we had the opportunity to show a little bit. So I think that just to invite persons to visit the work and share with us. I say that I make the research together with all the patrons, because we go every week. I update them, what I have done, what I how I progressed, and so we are working together. And obviously, many times I can work with, because I also needed many deceased ones to talk and so on. For instance, next week, we will be testing a new device for voice. And I will ask about some loved ones that I have already in mind. So, and also I wanted to test something with the static, So all this is will bring new results and new developments. I think that is what we have to do. So
Yeah.
just invite people to share with us.
Yeah. So, Sonia, if people would like to find you, I know the Patreon will be on the web on our show notes. And do you have a specific website?
I have here in Brazil, which it is the, I don't know if you can get it, but it is simple. It is www.ipati.org. So it
Right.
is simple.
Right.
So you can just inform that there are lots of also articles and things about what we are doing, and I'll be pleased to receive anyone.
Yes, yes, you are well documented when I Google you.
Oh God, that is dangerous.
And many wonderful interviews. Well, Sonia, you're a pioneer, like I said, and thank you for just all that you do. You truly are an angel to this world, and I commend you for taking a topic that is so controversial to many and just asking people to open up their hearts. And just, as I always say, you do the research, you look what's out there, and then you can come to your own conclusions. And it's just your work is so inspirational. So thank you so much, and you have a great evening in Brazil, and I hope to see you soon, very soon.
Yeah, maybe I go to California.
Yeah, maybe you'll come to California. Okay, thank you so much.
It would be a pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you, Marla. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening in today. If you want to learn more about the show, you can find us at interviewswithinnocence.com and on Facebook or Instagram at Interviews with Innocence. Please write me a message, tell me what you liked, and let me know what else you would like to hear. I would love to hear from you. And if you liked what you heard, please leave us an iTunes rating and review. It helps other listeners find the show. Thank you.